Okay, in my previous video, I talked about verbals. There are three types of verbals. There's the infinitive, gerund, and the participle. You can find this in almost any grammar book. You can find it on grammar videos on YouTube, and almost everybody knows about these three forms. So in my previous video, I talked about the participle acting as a verbal, and I showed how it could be a little bit confusing. I gave sample sentences. For example, Mary earned a teaching degree. Okay, teaching in this case would be the participle. It's functioning as an adjective, and the adjective is modifying in a forward direction, so we would call that cataphoric. That's a very simple example, but most people are familiar with this structure. Then I introduced this sentence, which created the participle puzzle, which I solved. The woman teaching French is my cousin. We see that teaching here is indeed a participle. It's functioning as an adjective, and the modification is backwards. In other words, teaching is modifying backwards to woman. And the phrase teaching French, of course, is the full phrase modifying back to the word woman. So I talked about that at length, and I showed how it's not as complicated as you might think when you first hear it. All right? Now, you can have a puzzle when you're dealing with gerunds. You can have a situation that's kind of confusing. So let's look at the gerund. Mary loves teaching and counseling. Okay, the word teaching here is a gerund. It's a verb form functioning as a noun. And in this case, in this sentence, it's also functioning as a direct object. Okay, there's the word counseling. Counseling is also a gerund. It's a verb form functioning as a noun. And it's also functioning here as a direct object. You have compound direct objects in this sentence. Okay, that's pretty straightforward and simple. Another example is building a skyscraper can take many years. We see the word building. It has the ing form, okay, but it's a gerund. It's functioning as a noun, all right? It's also functioning as the subject of the sentence. So you see then, the infinitive is pretty straightforward and clear. It's hard to get that confused when it's acting as a verbal. All right, the gerund we're going to talk about in a minute, and I already covered the participle. I did a video on that. We saw how the puzzle can be solved. So let's jump to the gerund puzzle. What can be confusing about a gerund? Well, here's a sentence that I heard. He earned a reputation building beautiful houses. Okay, now here's the word building, and we see that building is not an infinitive. See, we're not using the verb form to build, so we know it's not an infinitive. And we see building, all right, has the ing form, and it's not a participle because it's not functioning as an adjective. In other words, you can't say a building reputation or a building beautiful or a building house. Now, you could talk like this in poetry. Okay, that's acceptable in the realm of poetry, but not in basic grammar, not in basic rhetoric when speaking back and forth. So now we have a puzzle here. We have something we need to figure out because we need to know what this is and why it's this way. All right? So when I do studies and I analyze grammatical structures, if you've seen my videos, you'll know that I use my own system. I have levels, sentence levels, grammatical levels, and they are genuine, synthetic, and elliptical. I try to always consider these when I look deeply into something. So let's look at this form of sentence I just presented. Let's look at a different sentence. He made his fortune cheating his business partners. Okay, here's your verb form, but it's not a verb. It's trying to be a verbal. All right, so now we're back to the original puzzle question. What is this? What is building in this sentence? He earned a reputation building beautiful houses. All right, how do we go from a verb to a verbal. In other words, how do we go from a regular verb to a verbal, a verb form that's acting as something other than a verb? Okay, that's the puzzle. So let's look at our levels. The levels that I use in my mind. Genuine. We have a statement. We have a clause. He earned a reputation. That's a genuine clause. It can stand by itself. It's complete in itself. Then we have the other part of the thought. He was building beautiful houses. That's a genuine clause. That's a complete sentence. He was building beautiful houses. All right. And you see was building, this verb phrase here. All right. It's a verb phrase. It's a past progressive tense, but it's still an actual regular verb. All right. So that's what we have at the genuine level. Now, how do we get from the verb to a verbal? Well, I'll show you how it works in my mind. And I use this system for other structures, which you can find in my other videos. I have quite a few grammar videos. Okay, so at level 1, we have a genuine clause here. He earned a reputation. We have our punctuation. Then we have another genuine clause. He was building beautiful houses. So now you see here our verb phrase. It's a regular verb. It's an actual verb. It's not yet a verbal, all right? At this level, building is a genuine part of the verb phrase. Okay, that is clear. Now, at the second level, he earned a reputation, but now we want to omit the period and these two words, the word he and the word was, and we're left with building beautiful houses. So you see, we're at the synthetic level because we have a partial clause here, and we have another partial. And whenever you see anything synthetic in my system, in any of my videos, you'll know that the synthetic elements must be joined to something else. All right? So at this level, number 2, at this level, building is no longer a dedicated verb because we got rid of the word was. The two synthetic elements must now be combined. Okay? That's mandatory. So at level 3 then, we have he earned a reputation, and now we insert a word. It's an abstract proform. I talk about this in my other videos. You can check them out if you want to know what it is. It's something that stands in for something else. It stands in for reasonable implied content. And this, at the time, was reasonable. This worked in this sentence. The punctuation in these words, they worked here, but we took them out. So we have to stick something else in. So now you have building is now officially a verbal. You see? He earned a reputation by building beautiful houses. Or you could say he earned a reputation through building beautiful houses. But now you have, at this level, you have a genuine clause here. It can stand by itself. But there's a flavor, there's an element of elliptical in here because we did omission. All right, we took the liberty of omitting words. Now the mind does this at a speed that's probably faster than the speed of light. Now here at this level, okay, the abstract proform by or through, either one, is inserted. Building is now a gerund. Why? Because it's functioning as a noun. It's the object of the preposition. By and through, they're prepositions. The prepositional phrase, by building beautiful houses, is adverbial. It's not adjectival. In other words, you say he earned a reputation. Well, an adverb answers the question, how or in what manner? Well, this is how, by building beautiful houses. He earned a reputation. In what manner? Well, through building beautiful houses. See, now at this level, building is now a dedicated verbal. It's now officially a verbal. And that's what happened in the mind and the brain, whether we like it or not. All this stuff goes on. And I seem to be the only one talking about it, but I think it works. I could be wrong. All right? So your abstract proform can be by or through, in this example. It is functioning as a preposition. That's what it is, a preposition. Your object in a preposition would be building, and that has to be a noun. That's why we know it's a gerund. It has to be a noun. It's the object. And beautiful houses is your object complement. It complements the noun building. You see, it's complementing a noun. The abstract proform may be omitted, leaving the following. Okay, if you admit the abstract proform, he earned a reputation building beautiful houses. So you omitted this right here. You took it out. When you're talking fast, and your mind's going super fast. He earned a reputation building beautiful houses. And that's why we heard this sentence. That's why we heard it. Because that's how someone spoke. The structure is now genuine, though elliptical. In other words, words were omitted. So all in all then, when all's said and done, you have your three verbals. You still have them. Let's say you have the word building. All right, it's a gerund version of verbal. And let's say it's a noun in this case. He earned a reputation building beautiful houses. All right, we just talked about that. And here's building, but it's a participle. It's functioning as an adjective. Building supplies are now very expensive. And I can tell you this is an actual fact. My son and I are remodeling his house, and it's costing a fortune. Building supplies, you see, it's an adjective modifying the noun supplies. And then to build, it's a verbal in infinitive form. It's acting as a noun. His dream is to build his home. Dream is this subject complement. Dream, subject, verb is, and your noun is this. And back in the day, you would call this a predicate noun, but it's a subject complement. And there you have it. You have the verbal, the participle puzzle solved, and you have the verbal gerund, all right, solved in a very odd sentence. But you'll hear stuff like this when you hear people talking. And now you'll be able to figure out what function the word is performing. And that's it. So thanks for being incredibly patient, and good night.